Hello everybody, and I'm Ryan McKinnon here at Bandology. I'm the percussion curriculum specialist, and here's another video that's going to partake in our Get to Know the Percussion section series. Today we're going to be talking about timpani. Okay, so there's a couple of important things that we need to talk about first about timpani. First of all, you can see 3 drums here. Typically there would be 4, although it's up to you whether or not you decide to use 2 of the drums, 3 of the drums, all 4 of the drums. It really depends on what's in your music and what notes you're going to need to play. Something else is that there is sometimes even a 5th drum that's higher than the 4th drum, and it's called like a piccolo drum, piccolo timpani. And sometimes you may even need to use that. It's not necessarily a typical thing that you would see, but it is possible. Okay, so the first thing about all these drums is we need to know what their tunings are. Okay, so in order to tune, we know that we have to push down on the pedal, and the pitch rises, and if you let go of the pedal, the pitch falls, right? So on the big drum, the 32-inch drum, the tunings are from D to A. Okay, so the bottom of the range is D and the top of the range is A. The next drum, which is the 29-inch, is F to C. Okay. The next one, which is the 26-inch, is B flat to F. Okay. And the last one, the 4th drum, or what would be the 4th drum, is also D to A. Okay. So that's great. That's the first thing we need to know about timpani is tunings, okay? Now, something to note is that pedals on different timpani are sometimes different. So typically you're gonna see ones where you just have to push down and the pitch goes up. Like I said, let go and the pitch goes down. Sometimes I've seen timpani where you have to like click a notch first with your foot and then let go, and as you let go, it starts to get deep. But if you don't click that notch, nothing's gonna happen. Okay, so some pedals are different. That's just something to be aware of and get used to. Okay. So the next thing to talk about for timpani is when you're actually playing a proper beating spot. Okay, so this is not like the same as usual stuff. We're not playing directly in the middle of the drum. We're not playing, directly on the side of the drum. We're not, there's a very specific beating spot that you have to use in order to get like a good sound. However, this is unless it's indicated otherwise, like unless it's something's telling you to play directly in the center of the drum, then obviously you're gonna have to do that. Okay, so proper beating spot is about 1.5 inches out from the rim, and you're gonna play just out from there. Get a little bit closer. You definitely start to hear more rim sound there. Okay, and if I get any further, it's not quite as full of a sound out there. It's a bit washy and a bit dry. Okay, and then directly in the middle, that. Okay, so good beating spot, about 1.5 inches from the rim. Okay, and that's on all of them. They're all the same. Okay. All right, so that's about where we want to play. Now, next thing is, this is like a 3-category thing that I like to talk about. Okay, so first one is what a good sound is on timpani. Okay, the second one is articulation on the timpani. And the third one is playing off the drum. Okay, so in order to do all of these things, we need to make sure that we're thinking about all these things while we're playing. Okay, so the first thing is playing off the drum. Okay, so we always want to be playing off the drum when we're doing our strokes. It's not an upstroke, it's just a full stroke. Okay, so we're going up equally as fast as we went down, okay? Okay, now there's not a whole lot of oomph in there. I'm just kind of letting the stick drop, all right? So, okay, I'm coming off, I'm loose, I'm playing in the right beating spot that we just talked about, and you're getting a nice full timpani sound where you can hear it go all the way through the drum, okay? Next thing is articulation, okay? So for articulation, you have to know how to do what we just talked about, okay? So now maybe we're putting a little more strike into it, okay? And maybe we're putting a little more pressure on the stick, okay? And as we let go more, it's less articulation. Okay? So that's the idea, okay? So we need to make sure we're really loose throughout all this, okay? That's the main thing, is be loose. Even when you're playing hard or fast and being really articulate, you still need to make sure that you're loose. Okay? Cool. So, now, playing something about the timpani, like a huge thing actually about the timpani, is playing with a stool, which is what I'm sitting on, or without a stool. Okay, so a lot of the time when we're first starting to play percussion, like specifically, at least for me in high school, we had a stool, I just never really used it. And I kind of just stood up and like got a stance and tried to maneuver my way like this around the timpani. And it was always just really, I was using a lot more force and a lot more energy than I needed to. So then when I started using a stool, there's a really easy pivotal thing right here, and you're not putting a whole lot of energy in because you're not holding yourself up with your legs, you're just sitting on something, right? So if I'm going from this, say if there's a fourth drum here, if I'm going from this drum, I'm there. If I'm standing, I have to open up. Okay, so it's about saving energy and having a lot less movement go on so that you're not using up the energy that you do have, okay? So sitting, I would typically say to sit on a stool. Now, I mean, if it really is working for you and it's something that you believe is helping you in this scenario, then, you know, it's up to you. If you would rather not like to use a stool, that's okay. All right, cool. So next thing, now we're gonna start talking maybe a little bit about some technique stuff, okay? So, techniques. Legato stroke is the main thing. I kind of touched on that earlier when I said we're being loose. Okay, I think of it as a type of legato stroke. It's really supposed to be loose. You're supposed to pretend you're playing timpani like you're playing like a lovely, lovely song, okay? That's how I think of it. We're not trying to bring the whole house down here playing the timpani. We don't need to be excessively loud. They're already very loud instruments as they are. So just play, you know, loose, play nice, play lovely, play it like you're playing a Bach suite or something. That's what my teacher always used to say to me. Okay, so those types of legato strokes, right? Now, in order to talk about rolls and how we do certain types of rolls and how, you know, we hold the sticks and all this stuff, we have to talk about French grip versus German grip. Okay, so some of you might have heard of this. German grip is typically what we would use on snare drum if we're playing snare drum. So wrists are downwards like this, and we're playing this type of way, right? French grip is if we're sideways. So thumbs are up facing the ceiling, and we're playing this way, okay? It's the same sort of idea. We can incorporate like forearm motion in both, right? We can incorporate wrist motion in both, okay? And we can also incorporate finger motion in both, Okay, so it's the same sort of idea, it's just like the fundamental part of it is a little different. Okay, so typically on timpani, you would be using French grip. It's, for me, I actually find it to be a lot more comfortable, and I find I actually just get a better sound with the French grip than the German grip. I feel like German grip, I get a lot, like too much articulation and a lot more attack when I'm playing, and that's not necessarily something I want when I'm playing timpani or when I'm listening to timpani. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, rolls. In the French grip, I'm going to, for the rest of this technique part of it, I'm going to be talking about French grip because that's what I play. Okay, so for French grip with rolls, we don't do buzz rolls on timpani. Okay, there's no buzz rolls on timpani. Buzz rolls are for the snare drum. But for timpani, we're doing individual strokes, like a single stroke roll, really pretty much as fast as you can. And in order to do that, the technique that we do, the one that I was taught is kind of like twisting a doorknob. So if you're gonna put both your hands together like this, and you're gonna twist the doorknob, okay? And you're alternating, okay? And you have to be really loose in the forearm, and you're really just gonna get faster and faster, okay? And you're twisting that doorknob, okay? You're not grabbing the doorknob and putting a lot of pressure in here. No, you're just touching it and you're twisting the doorknob, okay? So if we put the sticks in our hands, same idea, twisting the doorknob. Okay, maybe a little faster. For rolls, same idea. Legato stroke, you have to be loose. You have to, come off the drum equally as fast as you're going down to the drum. Okay, that's how you get a good sound playing a roll. Okay, here, if you could see this from a better angle over here, maybe you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. So during that roll, there was some articulation and you were able to hear some articulation, but for the most part, you could hear a lot of ring there, okay? And that's because of the legato stroke. I'm not playing too harshly into the drum, okay? Now, the next thing to talk about is pressure. So it's kind of the same idea as that, is we're not pinching super hard here when we don't have a lot of force going into this when we're doing rolls, kind of like in snare drum, where we put a lot of pressure in here, right? That's not the idea, okay? We're really loose, no pressure, okay? So ways, if you're new to the French grip kind of thing, ways to get used to this is really to do the roll thing is honestly to sit in your room or sit while you're watching TV or sit, while you're eating dinner and do this. Honestly, your wrists will get used to the rotation a lot easier, and then when you come down to the drum, then you start doing it obviously slowly while you're warming up, and then you pick it up, get faster and faster and faster. Okay, something else that I would recommend for warming up, just in general on French grip, even German grip, this is the same idea, is stick control, the book. Okay, there's a free PDF of it online, and if you go and look up stick control for the modern snare drummer, you will find it, and it basically just gives you outlines of like stickings. So it'll be eighth notes written out, and it'll just say right, left, 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 or whatever, and then it'll go like right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right. And you just go through as many pages as you want, or you can just do the same page over and over again, or the same 3 exercises over and over again, and just do those stickings in French grip to get used to it, and then pick it up as you get better at those speeds, right? Okay, so that's a perfect way to warm up. That's a perfect way to do, even rolls, honestly, is that book stick control. So that's what I would definitely suggest to you, okay? Cool. So the next thing that we kind of have to discuss when it comes to timpani is muting, okay? Because in specifically like wind pieces, and honestly it could be in anything really, but wind pieces, you know, symphony orchestra pieces, even percussion ensemble pieces, if there's a timpani part, you know, there could come a section where these things ring for a long time, right? So if there's a section where you have a huge note that ends like a section, and then all of a sudden it's supposed to be really dead silent or quiet, or you know, everyone's playing triple piano, you don't want this thing to be ringing at double forte, right? Okay, so muting is something we have to talk about. For muting, I would say listen to the piece that you're playing, whatever piece it is, and listen to hear whether or not, you know, some of these notes are staccato or whether or not they're supposed to ring out, and try and figure that sort of an idea out. I would say, you know, my rule of thumb is if I have like a passage that's written in eighth notes and I have an eighth note and immediately after it an eighth note rest, I'm probably typically thinking that I'm gonna mute that immediately, because that would suggest to me that they don't want that to ring longer than that 1/8 note, right? If it's a quarter note, you know, you let it ring for the right amount of time and then you'd mute it. Half note, same idea, you know. But typically, you know, I would look those things up. You know, sometimes it is okay to just let them ring. Sometimes you want to decay it and you might have to just like slowly mute the drum. But as for the actual technique of muting, what I do is if I'm playing, like say like, okay, so it's like a switch. I don't know if you could see that, but when I play here, immediately after I play here, the second I hit that note, this hand goes down and mutes this drum, okay? That was a double hit at the end. But yeah, you get the idea, okay? It's hard to get used to, and it's hard to get used to when you're not looking as well. But that's the idea. The reason you do this is you want to mask the sound of you touching the drum and making that, you know, sound that isn't really necessary, with also hitting one at the same time. You know, you're still going to be able to hear it a little bit, but the people out there that are hearing this note come out are not going to be able to hear that, right? Okay. And otherwise, if you're not, you know, playing a note right after that and you have to mute this drum, you know, I try to do it really quiet and seldomly. You know, you can still hear that, but it's not terribly loud. It's not as if I'm going, right? Okay, so it's really, you know, you kind of let your finger, the tips of your fingers just press in and try and mute it. Right? Okay, that's the idea. Okay, so that's about all for muting. It is a hard concept and it is hard to get used to. So I would say if you're practicing something like this, like even there I messed up again. Yeah, so I would say practice that, and don't just go in thinking, okay, well, I'll be able to mute, it's fine. Okay, so that is something that you would need to practice and get used to. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about is mallets. Okay, so timpani mallets, we have a huge assortment of them, just like, you know, even like xylophone mallets, marimba mallets, all that, you know, the type of mallet instruments, there's a huge assortment. We have extremely hard mallets, we have like medium mallets, we have extremely soft mallets, we have rollers, we have you know, articulate but soft mallets. There's a whole mixture of those types of things. So I have a bunch just sitting over here, and I will kind of show you what each of them generally sound like. So these are supposed to be like mildly general, but on the harder side mallets. Okay, so this is what they sound like. Okay, I'm gonna pull out my extremely hard mallets. Okay, there's not a whole lot of body to these, it's just a lot of articulation. Right? Okay, next is like, these are more like main general. Okay. These are a little harder, a little more articulate. Sound there. So you can actually be quiet with these if you want. Right? Okay, the next thing we have, these are called rollers, except these are more articulate rollers than the other rollers that I'm about to show you after. So there's still like a bit of a oomph to the sound when you use these, okay? Here are my just big fluffy mallets that are rollers, all right? Okay, so there's not a whole lot of articulation with these. So these are just more mainly for big rolls, okay? So each of these mallets have different purposes, obviously. And you're going to definitely want to think about what mallets you're using, why you're using them, and what piece they would, mainly be specified for. So if you're playing, something that needs a really, big articulations, it's really big. I would use probably, something a little harder on the harder side. If you need a lot of thwack, I would use those extremely hard mallets. But if you're going for something that's a little more soft and delicate and light, depending on certain circumstances, I might use the more articulate rollers. But if it's really just mainly rolls and not a whole lot of articulation, I would probably use the rollers. But it's kind of up to your discretion and up to what the piece is that you're playing and whatnot. Another thing is just to keep in mind is you can use more than one set of mallets in a piece. If you want to keep it consistent, that is really up to you. If you'd rather keep it consistent and you think that's more important than changing up the types of sound that you have, then stick with one pair. If you'd like to change up the sounds, or you feel like it would be better if you changed up the sounds because of certain circumstances, then you're more than welcome to use more than one set of mallets. Okay, so I think that's about all for the timpani. I am now going to play you an excerpt.
Thanks for joining us. If you like what you heard, you can learn more about our organisation at Bandology.ca, which features information about music education, advocacy and research, and our Play a Gig and Bandcamp programs. Follow us on social media for more videos, performance and interviews on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube.